Hello you, it's good to see you again. I hope you've been well. My name's Jack, and it's time for us to read some more Reddit stories together. Let's begin. This story by Chronically Drawing. My boyfriend admitted he orchestrated our meet cute. I have no idea how I feel about what he told me. I want to think it's cute that he cared this much, but it's just coming off as creepy, and I feel lied to. See, he got drunk because we were celebrating my first successful day at my clinicals, and he ended up saying something along the lines of, "Could you believe we wouldn't be this happy if I hadn't watched you for so long?" To which I was confused and didn't know what he meant. Well, I had worked at a local library for 2 years before we met, during college, and apparently he saw me there, but didn't actually talk to me. He just would watch me and listen in on my conversations with the people I was checking and my co-workers out to figure out what I liked. Then he apparently followed me and found the coffee shop I frequented. All this time, I thought we had a sweet first-time meeting story. He accidentally bumped into me, apologized, and offered to buy me coffee for the trouble. He told me what he was ordering, and it was the exact same thing I always get, and I thought it was an amazing coincidence. I joked that it was fate, and we spent like an hour talking over coffee. I feel so stupid. Apparently, it was similar to a scene in a book that I had read and told my coworker, which I had thought was cute. I'm just so frustrated. Like, why would you do this? And how much of our year-and-a-half relationship is a lie? Ah, what a go-getter. This man knows what he wants and he'll do whatever it takes to ensure they don't at all mistake him for someone creepy. Which he does by doing the probably creepiest thing you could ever do. As comments are immediately relating him to the main character in You. Bro, are you dating Joe Goldberg or what? Like,
I follow you.
oh, cool, like on social media?
I don't have social media.
But interestingly, there's a lot of theories in the comments that believe that overhearing you having this, fantasy of the ideal date idea, thought, hey, what a grand gesture to show her that I truly think that she is amazing. Like, I want to make this a special moment for her. They say, this post and this comment section are making me so mad. Without assuming anything about their relationship, is it worth throwing everything out the window over this? Sure, it was quite a weird way to get your attention, but so what? He went out of the way to do all of that for you just to have a chance with you. You're still with him, probably happy, otherwise why would you be with him? So what's wrong? All the parrots screaming dump him have literally no context besides this situation, and it's not enough. Others jumping onto this, that okay, the guy is shy, doesn't have confidence, and is afraid of rejection. He tried to build up courage over many months and maximized his chances of not being rejected. And for that, he's somehow a stalker and a bad partner. This is truly wild. I feel sorry for shy, neurodivergent, and not confident men out there. So ultimately, there seems to be this belief in the comments that while his actions were a bit crazy, his intentions were pure. But it does beg that question of how much of a first impression are you allowed to manipulate about yourself? This goes a bit beyond wearing a wig to hide the fact you're extremely bald, after all. But that's where we come to this sudden edit at the top of the post, where Opie says, I was wrong. My boyfriend didn't do anything wrong. That's it. That's all that Opie says. It's rather strange, isn't it? After planning to confront their boyfriend about this more, that's all she updates us with? It gets comments to say, the fact that her update at the bottom says she's going to talk to him and then we got the one at the top scares me. OP, please be okay. And look, I know we sort of summarized the comments, but this one I just found that I think is very important to point out regarding people's defense of the boyfriend. Watching you is different than noticing you. If he had noticed you one day and took a bit to build up the courage to approach, that would have been one thing. There are tons of people who see someone every day that they don't interact with until one day they decide to just say hi. But watching you for 2 years, eavesdropping on conversations, etc., that's too far. Enthusiasm and effort is great, but there's a line, and he crossed it. But regardless, what is this edit all about? Well, thankfully, OP returns 2 days later with a proper update. Hey everyone, I know a lot of you have been worried about me, and I just wanted to let all of you know that I'm safe. Schmidt has definitely hit the fan. but at the moment, I'm safe. First, no, I didn't make the last update. My boyfriend went on my phone while I was showering and trying to figure out what I wanted to say to him about everything, and he found and edited my post. He then started yelling at me while I was still in the shower about sharing it online and calling him creepy. At the same time, he was guilt-tripping me and telling me that it was romantic and he did it because he loved me. He literally read a few of the comments out loud to me. He barely let me out of the shower, but I did manage to get my clothes on while he was screaming at me. What really freaked me out was that he started listing off things that he could have done to me. I won't list them here because it was extremely gruesome and I don't think it's allowed, but he said that he didn't do those things because he's such a nice guy. The way he described the things he could have done, though, made me feel like he had genuinely considered doing it. Although I thought he was only watching me for a few months, apparently it was upwards of a year, and it was genuine, actual stalking. He had followed me home and to my college campus. He pulled out a collection of my lost hair ties that he kept. I told him that he was scaring me and that we needed to take a break and come back to it later. At that point, he put a hole in the wall next to my head. I told him that I was leaving after that because screw that mess, and it was like a switch flipped and he started crying. He got on his knees and begged me to stay and apologized. I ended up accepting his apology because I didn't feel safe leaving. Yesterday morning, after he'd left for work, I grabbed all my important documents and irreplaceable things before my clinical started and kept them in my car. After my clinical, I didn't go back to the apartment. I'm not going to give much more detail than that because he does know my account, obviously. And for Andrew, if you're reading this, which we both know you are, please just leave me alone. The person I thought I loved doesn't actually exist, and that's heartbreaking. I no longer feel safe with you like I did before, and I hate that. Please, let's just move on from each other.
I hate it when it's always as bad as you suspect it to be sometimes.
I often reflect on my younger Romeo romanticism self with this sort of behavior, and while I never was violent or aggressive towards a partner for no longer being into me, I was definitely like that emotional sulky mess. I mean, how do you find the signs that a guy is going to become this sort of person when they get older? To develop this extremist infatuation for someone that clearly is not healthy for them or those around them. Now, this guy's obviously a very extreme case of it. You know, not every, Romeo out there is a huge stalker, but they're also still likely to be just as much of a mess to try to break up with. Comments even warn OP that as a social worker, you are in a very risky situation, even though you have left the premises. I would strongly advise what others have already stated, calling the police and trying to access a social worker. I would advise you to go to the police station in person if possible. But also to call out the ridiculous excuse this guy has here. Because you know what? He's not creepy and problematic for what he did. Because other people do worse things. That means the things I do aren't bad. That's right. You're allowed to do anything morally wrong and corrupt as long as you reference the fact that Hitler once existed. Over now to this story of someone also being scammed out of their life. I think my coworker's boyfriend is scamming her. What do I do? This just happened today, so stay with me while I get all the details out. So I've been at my job for a couple of months now, and there's a girl I chat with at lunch and sometimes during break. She's been talking about her boyfriend, and I've only heard random details here and there, but today she told me more of their story, and I'm starting to think that he's not real in the way she thinks he is. It started when she finally showed me a picture of him. Now, this guy is extremely attractive. Let's go, girl. And I obviously asked to see more photos. But as she started showing me more photos, they all sort of looked like they were screenshots someone took from their Snapchat story and sent to someone else, like Snapchat filters and Snapchat designs. And every photo was clearly posed and low-key a thirst trap. Kinda weird, but whatever. She then mentioned that they met through a dating app. Now, this wasn't weird at all, until she mentioned that he moved home to Europe a week after they started dating due to his mother's unexpected death. I told her this must have been so hard for her, seeing as they were only in person for a little while before he had to leave. But then she said they never met in person. I jokingly asked if she's ever seen the guy, and she said they can't FaceTime that often because his connection is bad, but they text all the time. She then talks more and more about the reasons why he has had to stay in Europe. Context, he was supposed to come home in December, but his return keeps getting pushed back. I'll list some of them down below. So his mother had a diamond in a safety deposit box that he inherited and now has to sell it because the rent on the diamond has increased. Like what? He has said that he will cut the diamond in half and sell one part and then turn the other half into a ring for her. His family is fighting over the will, and there's a clause in there saying his inheritance is conditional on having a wife. Any lawyer wants to chime in and tell me if this is normal, because I think not. I jokingly asked if I could read it, and she said he explicitly told her that no one could ever see it, which just felt a little off. Also, he's sending her his tax return because finances are weird in Europe, and she can just send it to him later, which in my brain is code for, let me get access to your bank account. She said he's offered to do all of her taxes, so I don't know what information she has sent over. Now, he allegedly has properties all over the US because he's in real estate, but she's never been over to his house, which is only 30 minutes away from our office. Though he's in real estate, he hasn't been able to sell his mother's house in the last few months, which makes his stay even longer. In the newest turn of events, she has a ring that she bought as a placeholder before he gets her a real one. They're not engaged, but she's convinced he's going to come back and they will get married. She hasn't told her family because she thinks they will judge her, and she says they are planning on getting married by the end of the summer. I just honestly don't know what to think, say, or do. It's not like we're close friends, which would allow me to have input on her life, but I don't know if I can start a conversation with, hey, I'm pretty sure this boyfriend of yours is fake. I researched the impact of internet scams in college for a semester, and this seems to have all the signs of a scam, but a slightly different presentation. So I guess, help? What do I say? Any chance someone has seen this before or knows how to address it? We'll only be co-workers for another year or so before I'm back at school, so I'm okay with it getting a little awkward if need be. Any thoughts? Thanks in advance. Now, considering there's 2 updates to this story, I think it's fair to just go straight to the next week later, where OP decides to be a bit more confrontational. So, I posted here about a week ago, but there have been some developments. I've been sitting on the realization that my coworker is involved in a scam for about a week. I decided to take a small step and tell one of the other girls I eat lunch with, let's call her L. There are 4 of us who eat lunch together. Me, the girl being scammed, Kate, Elle, and Paige. So I message Elle and ask her if we could meet during one of our breaks. We sit down in a break room, and I slide her my original Reddit post on my phone. She reads it, and I see the glimmer of realization set in, and she says, I think you're right. She then lays out some additional info she gleaned from our Kate about the boy. So turns out they had a phone call once, and she noted that his accent didn't sound European. But she excused it as, well, the connection isn't good. Not how phones work in 2025, but okay, I guess. She also suspects he might have her social security number based on the tax info she has sent him. Now, he was supposed to come home in March, but the day before his return, his aunt tragically died in a car accident. The rent he is paying for the diamond, which is still not a thing, has increased, so he will need to put down a big payment on it, which, to me, is an indicator that he is about to ask her for money. Anyway, we yapped a little more, and she thinks that we need to tell Kate. She just doesn't know how. We did agree that we should tell Paige, since she chats with the girl being scammed more than either of us. So I did what any self-respecting Redditor would do. I texted Paige the OG Reddit post and asked her to call me when she was done. Needless to say, she called me and told me that she felt that the stories of our Kate's boyfriend were strange, but seeing them all written down made it seem entirely suspicious. We now have a group chat, and we're trying to figure out the best way to tell her on Monday, because preventing this before any money is stolen is a big priority. Stay tuned. So comment at this point was saying, oh, this poor girl, she's lucky that you and your coworker and friends have put your heads together and are trying to help her. She's obviously not thinking clearly, and she could wind up in such a deep financial schmithole. A friend's mum lost almost $500,000 in a romance scam, which is more understandable for her, in her 70s or 80s, than it is for a young woman, but I digress. Opie responding that, I'm just shocked she hasn't felt suspicious. I just want to shake her shoulders and yell, you have never seen him. Now, honestly, most of the comments, I'm also just bringing up their own examples of people falling victim to these scams. Like, this one is insane. I have a friend from high school that has been married and divorced twice now. The second one ended about 3 years ago, and the final straw happened when they came back to the state I live in to visit family, and she ended up staying. After this, I learned she was talking to some guy she met online and had been sending money here and there. Right off, this felt odd to me. Then I learned the guy was in the military and didn't have access to his money, which really sounded wrong. I'm an army brat. I was literally born on an army base, and most of my family has been in the military. I started telling her gently that this all sounded wrong, and no matter where he might be deployed, they will make sure he has access to everything he needs, including his money. This guy kept asking her for money and even a new phone, which I thought I had convinced her to stop, but she bought and sent one. Then it got returned because of a problem with the address. Told her she should just return it, but she didn't. She showed me a couple of pictures, and like you mentioned, the pictures didn't look real, and took me a bit to pick out the problem. With those, he said he was Army, but in one picture, he was wearing a t-shirt with the Air Force logo, and another was Navy. Now, if you know anything about the armed forces, I mean, I've got family in almost every branch, you'll know they all give each other hell, and it's all but blasphemous to wear the wrong gear. So that was big red flags to me. Anyway, nothing I said was really convincing her of anything. She would act like I was getting through, but then kept talking to him. It wasn't until he sent a form to make the relationship official. So he sent her a relationship application form, which is total BS. Asked for all kinds of dumb information and a check for $900 made out to the Department of Defense. Now, my daughter married her husband, who was in the Army Reserve at the time of their wedding, and while I knew this form was BS, I got my daughter on the phone, searched the military romance scams online, and presented all of this to her, which again seemed like she understood, but still kept talking to this guy. I was at my wit's end and was going to take her to the local Army recruitment office and have them talk to her, but she backed out of that. I gave all kinds of proof of the scam, and honestly, I'm not sure she ever stopped talking to him and sending money or stuff, but it's probably been nearly 2 years since we have talked much, and it got to the point that she had to choose for herself to sink or swim. I did all I could. So, with that happy ending to that person's story, how does OP's story end 5 days later? Welcome back, everyone. I will spoil this a little by saying there isn't really a satisfying resolution, and she is still involved in the scam. Maybe later she'll get out, but not today. But before I begin, here is some more info we have learned about everyone's favorite fake boyfriend. He's too busy to respond to her texts because he trades in Bitcoin. He gets mad whenever she asks for photos of his property, which is definitely not sketchy. And in the newest turns of events, he sent her money to buy a dress, and she bought it. Depending on how this money was sent to her, she has the potential to be complicit in money laundering or acting as a money mule. Is your anxiety increasing? Because mine is. Over the weekend, the group chat decided that Paige should talk to Kate. They carpool together occasionally, and Paige is a kind person, so we figured it would come across as concern rather than attacking in the eyes of Kate. Now, for those of you saying we should be as blunt as possible, I love that approach, and that is usually how I live life. But this is a coworker in a professional work environment, and I'm not friends with these people. We just sometimes eat lunch together, which makes it a little tricky on how to approach this. Anyway, Paige pulled Kate aside during one of our breaks and told her that she'd been thinking about her fiancé and that it seemed a little off. She then proceeds to list out most of the points I put here on Reddit. Now apparently, Kate got quiet, and when Paige was finished, she said, I thought he may have been a scam in the beginning, but because he has never asked for money, I know he's real. But thanks for the concern. Now, according to Paige, she left mine and Elle's names out of the conversation, so Kate has two other people to turn to if she wants to talk. But Kate didn't talk about her fiancé at lunch yesterday, which she always does, so maybe she's closed off to us now. In conclusion, please protect yourself online. Scamming is a multi-billion-dollar industry and everyone is at risk. If you feel like an online job posting, an individual on a dating site, or a free service seems too good to be true, it probably is. It is so much better to be cautious than end up with $30,000 in credit card debt like Peter Griffin. If you know, you know. Now, while Kate may have a sound excuse for how he couldn't be a scammer because, hey, yeah, she got money from him after all, comments say, I think buying her something is part of the scam. Like, he can't be a scammer because he spent money on her. But that's the hook. I guarantee very soon she will be asked for money, and the fact that he bought her something will be used. Oh, I got you that dress, so obviously I have money, but I just need a loan right now because my Bitcoin is tied up. And Opie agrees that I just love that scammers always talk about how much money they have, and then all of a sudden they need help paying for something because magically every single one of their assets is unavailable. Yeah, I've never really been scammed personally, knocking on wood. That doesn't ever happen to me, but I can also understand how easily we can sort of, be lured into these sort of things. God forbid we've all had some sort of relationship at some point with someone that we've excused certain behavior because we just really wanted to work out with them. I don't doubt that Kate feels like this guy is very hot, very attractive, and she doesn't think she's going to have any other chance with someone who looks like this guy, so rather just accept the possibility he might be a scammer than to face the reality that, most men who pay for OnlyFans creators to talk to them or send them private things, it's not necessarily because they genuinely believe the content creator when they say that I love you and all these other more intimate things. They know it's a facade, but they would rather pretend it isn't than to face the reality that someone this attractive would normally never even look at them. But with that dystopian outlook on how people approach relationships these days aside, let's end today's video there. Thank you as always for watching. Hope you have a lovely day and don't reflect too much on that sort of artificial trend that is becoming more and more common in the dating field. In the meantime, you be good, love your face, and I'll see you for the next video. Bye-bye!